Well, here we are back at the AI Summit London. I'm Ben Wodecki, and this is a real highlight for me. I'm with Brian Schwab from the Lego Group. Now, Brian, you're the director of interactive design, is that right?
I'm one of them, yes. Yeah, so interaction design is actually somewhat of a up and coming sport at Lego, and they hired me from a background mostly in games and in XR technology to kind of help spur that forward going forward.
So let's talk a bit about your background, because I mean it's impressive for a video game expert from like myself. Blizzard, Sony, DreamWorks Interactive. I mean, for me, Medal of Honor Underground is my childhood. It is the game that I grew up with on PS1, and to this day still have fond memories of Vesselborg Castle. So let's take us back to how you've seen the landscape in AI change from that period in, what, 2000, I guess?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Believe it or not, my first game in the industry was on the Sega Genesis.
Oh wow!
I think so it was a while ago, right?
That's older than me. I'm only 27. I'm sorry to put that in there.
The Medal of Honor Underground was actually a pretty interesting project, because that was back when Spielberg still owned a part of DreamWorks, and so they had already done Medal of Honor, the first one. It was largely Saving Private Ryan, the video game, right? And so Medal of Honor Underground was, let's try something different in the same world. Let's try something very different. Lots of different gameplay, lots of different stuff to do. And so Spielberg actually came in on a monthly basis and largely came to my office and spent 3 hours with me, and we would sit and talk week after week after week. And I got to like be there when Hollywood was trying to tell more generative stories, right? Not quite so directed, right? More kids in control, right? And so for a lot of my career, I've been in this place where you have AI making an inroads into much more traditional artistic and entertainment sort of structures, where because it's Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
So he's in control of everything.
How could you develop with him leering over you?
It was actually really he's a pretty, I don't know, because I haven't worked with a ton of guys, but like that particular human being was very open. He would sit down and he would be like, this action scene would be so much better if you were down here and you could see what the person was seeing when this happened. And I would go, okay, and I would change the code a little bit and hand him the controller, and he'd be like, yeah, just like this. And then I would reach over and push the controller, and he'd be like, oh, but that goes to hell, doesn't it? And then very quickly he'd realize that like having beautiful AI camera control, or excuse me, beautiful camera control doesn't work when the camera can wildly swing all the time. And so like getting a lot of his notions to be okay with that little bit of loss of control actually helped him to become much more of a good interaction person, and helped his games to have his feel but be, more interactive.
Yeah, and this was pre-analog stick, so this is, your movements are really defined.
Yeah. This was PlayStation 1.
Yeah, that was, oh my goodness, that was my first console as well. But you've been involved actually in one of the most important AI games in the world, and that's StarCraft II. Like from 2016,
yes.
Maybe a little bit earlier?
Earlier.
Yeah.
So I was working on StarCraft II in 2013, 14, and what was interesting was I actually was the person that internally in Blizzard got them to release StarCraft I to do full-fledged AI research on the source code. And so they had some early efforts to sort of like, work with the code base, but it was never officially sanctioned. And so like, because I was now a part of Blizzard at the time, I worked with the internal groups and got them to do all the legal paperwork to release it, so that like the AI community could have StarCraft I as a base for doing AI research and all of that. And it led to many years of that. And then with the success of that, StarCraft II eventually became available and all of that. So yeah, I was actually a big push there to like try and get that unhinged. That was still sort of like an unofficial effort until I got in there and kind of was able to like lever some from the inside.
And how is it like viewing what they've done with it? They've taken it and now it's better than some of the top esports players. That must be pretty like proud for you, right?
Yeah, no. It was always one of those things where like I knew as soon, like one of Blizzard's strength is that they had such a collection of great game designers. It was almost like they were a little bit afraid of AI because they thought it was going to take away their ability to do good stuff. And it was like, no, you're seeing it as taking the wheel instead of being a multiplicative effort on all of your work, right? And I was able to kind of like help them see that I wasn't just giving the keys away, that I was actually going to make things better. So like, it's definitely like been nice to like watch all of that grow. But like, you know, I was always a believer right from the start. So it's just been nice that they they basically let the door open, you know.
And now you're doing something a little different. You're at Lego, and if I'm right, you're working on something a little bit different in terms of interfaces. Talk me through a little bit about that.
I mean, I can't talk too much about it, but like, needless to say, like a lot of my, because I'm in between Lego and the game industry, I was actually at another company called Magic Leap, which was a headset company, right? Mixed reality. And so a lot of my work in spatial computing has always been more top down, right? Pixels everywhere. And Lego is a little bit more bottom up, right? It's like the pixels are physical in this instance, right? We've been shipping pixels to everybody for 100 years. And so the trick with Lego is to try and get some of the interactivity and some of the beauty of like advanced interactive stuff, but like let's keep hands on bricks. And so that's a lot of what I'm working on now, is to try and be a bit more a return to the old, but like let's bring some of the good stuff with us.
Sure. Brian, what are you thinking as well about generative stuff? Obviously you've talked about it a little bit. I came up with a concept in my head, maybe you guys are working on it, is using it to help sculpts of new sets, because you know sets are a lot more complex than they were in 2000, especially on the Star Wars side for me. What's your thoughts on this? Anything that you guys are considering at the moment?
I mean, we've got a good chunk of experiments going in like a lot of different directions. It's one of the great things about Lego is that they're always on the search for more play, right? Wherever the play takes us is a good direction to go. And so if we have tools that we can use that like let more kids tell their stories, then those, you know, generative systems are going to be embraced by Lego, just simply because they provide kids with the power, which is what we've always been trying to do.
Sure. And Brian, finally, what's next for you? What's next for you working on? And what's next for AI at Lego? What can you kind of talk us through the next 12 months is going to look like?
I mean, the beautiful thing about a lot of what AI tools now do is that they come to you, right? And to a certain extent, that's actually always been Lego's mission, is to bring whatever it is, stick it on your floor, and you can make whatever it is right then and there, right? It's not about going to the toy store and picking up the beautiful object and bringing it back. It's always about being in your surface with you, the thing you want. And a lot of generative AI is exactly that in like software form. And so I think we're starting to be, you're going to start to see a lot of like really, really cool stuff with Lego and with AI in general, because Lego has always been around individual kids, and what generative AI finally brings to the world is individuality expression is a much cheaper and a much easier and sort of accessible thing for a large corporation that can't do very, very personalized stuff until now.
Well, Brian, I'm excited. I hope people out there are excited as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.